Hi guys, and thanks for joining me today. If you're new here, I'm Marilyn, and if you're returning, thanks so much for coming back. The company Vevor reached out to me and asked me if I'd like to try out a button press. So that's what we're going to do in today's video. Now I've used a few button presses, so at least I have something to compare to. That's not always the case when I do unboxings. I've already cut most of this open, but let me go ahead and finish cutting the tape. We're going to take a look and see what's inside here. Then I'll take a few minutes to study it. We'll come back and we'll see how this works. Okay, so let me go ahead and tilt this. You can see there's a piece of styrofoam inside. And then under that, we have a cutter and another cutter. Now this machine will make two different sizes of buttons. So there's a cutting tool for the larger size and a cutting tool for the smaller size. Now I've received these before, but I don't really use them because I don't really like them. But I'll show you how you use it in case you're interested. All right, I see a lot of supplies in here. And that's the nice thing about the various button makers that I've used. You typically get a lot of supplies to start with. So we have the button backs for the smaller buttons. We have, yes, that's the back. Okay, what's the difference in these? I'm not sure yet, but I have some plastic backs and I have some metal backs, and they're both small. Let's stick with the small things. Here's what goes on the front of your button, and then your picture will go over it, and there will be a piece of plastic or mylar, something that's see-through on top of that. So this is part of the small buttons. And then here is the clear plastic pieces for the small buttons. Now these stick together really easily, so you have to be careful not to have several of them stuck together. Now also in this little baggie, you have some white pieces of paper. So if you have children that you want to just color on these or mark on these, draw on these, you can use the paper provided. But I typically print out what I want to use. So that's all the small button supplies. Now for the larger buttons, we have these metal backs. We have plastic backs. Maybe you use them together, but I don't think so. Here's the front part of the button, and then here's the paper and the plastic that goes over that. And then there's a couple of little rubber pieces in here. I assume that's going to be used with the press. Next thing we have is this box. Under it, we have a little pamphlet. Now there's something you can scan to get a video. But they also talk about the various parts of the button maker, and there are some instructions in here. In addition, this is really cool. You do get a little book, and I thought maybe it would have pictures in it that kids can color. But it looks like, oh, there they are. Okay, so actually it's not pictures they color. It's pictures that you can cut out and use them with the buttons. There's also some blank paper in here in case you want to use that. All right. I'm going to have to move the box to get this last piece out. Now this box is the actual button press. So I'll open the boxes, study up just a little bit. We're going to put it together, and then we'll use it. Now that I've gotten everything out of the box, let's go ahead and put this together. But before I do that, I want to let you know, you get a ton of supplies with this button maker. You get 200 sets of what you need to make the smaller size button, and in the end, those end up being about 1¼ inches in diameter, and you get 300 sets of what you need for the larger buttons. They end up being about 2¼ inches. Now the instructions for putting this together, they are very basic. So if you've gotten one of these, hopefully this video is helpful. We have the main part of the button maker. We have this handle that we're going to add. We have these molds, and they are on this metal plate that we'll insert in there in just a minute. We have the top press for the large buttons, the top press for the small buttons, and then we have this base. So let's start by adding the base. Everything that you need to put this together is right here. So we have a couple of connecting screws. We have a couple of Allen wrenches. Let's see which one we'll use for this. Okay, so we're going to use the smaller of the two Allen wrenches to put this together. And there's a couple of washers. Let's go ahead and move these things out of the way. Here's the base. And there's a couple of holes back here. One right there, one over here. They're going to connect into this base. And I thought I would flip this over and attach them from the bottom, but the instructions are showing that you attach them from the top. So we need a washer. We'll place this down inside. Then I'm going to have to look and see if it lines up. And actually, I think I just felt it fall down in there. Okay, so right now that's just hand tight. In a minute, I'll tighten it up with the Allen wrench. So let me go ahead and tighten these up. Now hopefully the screw doesn't stick down below this because that would scratch my table every time I move it. So let me go ahead and tighten it up and we'll see. All right, that feels plenty tight, so let's look at it from the bottom. Okay, so it's not coming all the way through, but this metal has some little, well, it's not polished. So if you are not careful, you're going to get scratches on your table like I did. So if you're on a table that you're particular about, have a towel or something down under it. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and attach this handle. It just screws in. Now it took me a minute to get the threads to start where they should be. Once they did, it goes in easily. All right, that is as far as I can get it. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add this top piece because I feel like if you add the bottom piece first, it's going to be hard to get this top piece in there. Now this is the top piece for the large buttons, but there's a piece right back here, and then there's a little nub right there. And I think that little nub has to go at the back here. So you put it in and then you twist it. Okay, so now that is not coming out. And you want to make sure that these pins line up with the holes. See how they go right up through there? Now I'm going to go ahead and put this under here so I don't scratch up my table anymore. Now with the bottom part of the mold, you see it says left and this one says right. You have a pin right here and then you have a pin right here. But this pin is not twisted down all the way. So let's go ahead and insert this from this right side. Once I have it inserted, I'm going to go ahead and twist this down. Okay, that doesn't fit it. Let me go ahead and take that out and take it to where I have my Allen wrenches, and I'll figure out what size I need. Here's a set of Allen wrenches that I have. These are metric, and the 4mm is too little, the 6 is too large, the 5 is perfect. Now the purpose of these pins is so that this, now why is that stuck? Now I kept having trouble not being able to get this past here. It needs to go further because at some point this has to be under there. So look right here. It's getting stuck on the metal bar of this. So you need to lift this up, pull it the rest of the way through. Now I can go ahead and tighten that down. Now the purpose of these pins is so this can't fall off. At this point, we have this put together and we're ready to make our very first button. All right, let's go ahead and get the book. We'll pick out one of the pictures, and it doesn't really matter which one, so let's just do this one right here. Notice there are 4 sizes on each page. The 2 sizes that my machine uses are this size and this size. To use the cutter, I'm going to go ahead and place this over the circle. Now I am not good at this. We have it in place, so I'm going to hold my thumb on the top here, and then we're going to cut. And I can tell I'm not doing a good job, so I'm going to have to cut the rest of it out by scissors. But in essence, that's how these work. Yeah, see, I got part of it cut out, but it didn't go through all the way around, so I'll finish it with scissors. The circle right now is 2 3/4 inches in diameter and 1/4 inch all the way around it, so a 1/2 inch total isn't going to show. So if you print yours like I usually do, make sure that the design that you want to be seen is about a 1/2 inch smaller than that. No more than 2 1/4 inches in diameter. So let me move that over so we can access it. We're going to start by putting down this piece. Then our picture. And then the clear piece that goes on top. We're going to pull it over so this is straight under this piece, and then I'm going to pull down with this knob. While you do that, there's a handle on the back that you can hold on to. Now hopefully you can see in there that it is no longer there. It's stuck up in there until the next step. Now this white piece here, it says to use the washer if you're using the 58mm or the 75mm. We're using the 58mm, so I'm going to go ahead and place that inside. Then I'll take one of these back pieces. I have a plastic one and I have a metal one. We're going to stick with the metal one. Now notice that this is what would go through your shirt. So that needs to be down. And of course you want to have that safety pin type thing going side to side. So we'll slide this over. Then we'll pull down on the handle just like we did before, holding on to that other handle in back. And there's our pin. Now let's see how straight that back piece is. It's not quite straight. What I have found is you can sometimes have a little play in these. That's not too bad, but it's really not quite straight. So I'm just going to have to play with it and figure out what is straight. But that was easy. These are fun to make. Kids love these. I had some high school kids that would make these with the grade school kids. They just thought it was so much fun. So now let's go ahead and make one of the smaller ones. Now I have to remove this upper piece, but what it says is to go ahead and remove the bottom piece first. Just like before, I have to lift this up to get this bar past that pin. So that wasn't too bad to come out. I just didn't remember exactly how to do it. You have to turn it just a little bit, and then you really have to pull down. Just like the larger one, there's this nub that's going to go to the back. Put it in there, twist it slightly, and it's not going to come out. We'll slide this bottom piece on again. It is getting stuck right there. So we'll lift this, pull it the rest of the way through. Then I need to tighten this back down. And I'm finding that I didn't really need the Allen wrench. At first I did, because I think the threads in there, or the part you thread it into, just had some burrs or something on it that needed knocked down. But now I don't need that Allen wrench at all. This time I'm just going to cut this out with scissors, cutting on that line. Now it doesn't have to be perfect because part of this is going to fold to the back side. So we have this piece, then we put the paper in, and then the clear plastic piece. And I like how this is set up that you can use it with 2 different sizes. I've used one before that you had to take this off and add a whole nother bottom piece. I like how it's efficient with this one piece. So I'm going to hold on to the handle in the back and press down on this. And you kind of have to just push until you feel something kind of give. Once you've done them a few times, you kind of understand what I mean by it just kind of gives. The button's missing, it's up in there. This time let's use a plastic back. And also, since I'm not using the 58 or the 75 millimeter, I don't need to worry about this. Let's go ahead and take it out. Now remember, the part that attaches to your shirt needs to go down. Let's move this over. And what happens is this pin in the back stops it where it needs to be. We'll push down until I feel it give a little bit. And there's the pin. Super cute. Now I think these are great to customize things. I actually made a lot of memorial buttons for a funeral once, but I think these are great for kids. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, leave them in the comment section below. What I will say is, this is very easy to use, and these results are great. Now I am going to have to try to figure out how I need to place that down so that it's straight across. That's just going to take trial and error. Now I'm looking at the Vevor website right now, and this button maker is listed at $132.99, but it also right now has an 18% coupon. So I think that would get it down to about $110. Since you can make about 500 buttons with this, I think that's a pretty good buy. So if you're interested, check out the link in the video description. Now that is an affiliate link, so if you use the link, there's no extra cost to you, and I do receive a little referral money for that. So if you're in the market for one of these, check it out. If you're interested, I appreciate it if you want to use that link in the video description. So thanks again for joining me, and I hope to see you in my next video. Provided, but I typically